It was Father's Day, June 15th. A quiet Sunday morning in Charleston, South Carolina. Mark Reynolds, 43 years old, woke up early, before the smell of breakfast, before his son stirred in bed, before anyone noticed something was wrong. He walked into his son's room, kissed him gently on the forehead, whispered, "I love you," and walked out of the house for the last time. No phone, no wallet, just his car keys and a folded envelope. He drove to the South Bridge, the one just outside the city, parked, left the engine running, and with no hesitation, stepped over the railing and disappeared into the morning fog. By the time anyone realized he was gone, it was too late, and what he left behind shattered everything. Inside the envelope was a 3-page handwritten note and a DNA test. It wasn't money, it wasn't illness, it wasn't guilt, it was betrayal. The kind that doesn't just end a marriage, it fractures your soul. Because for 10 years Mark had been raising a son he thought was his, but on Father's Day morning, he discovered the truth. The boy didn't belong to him, and the man who had taken everything from him was his own younger brother, Donovan Reynolds. Donovan had just been released from prison. Mark welcomed him in, fed him, clothed him, gave him a second chance, and in return, Donovan gave him the deepest wound a man could carry. Before we go deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Now, what did Mark see that morning that made death feel like his only escape? What had Elena, his wife, been hiding for over a decade? And how do you forgive a brother who's stolen not your money, but your entire identity as a father? Stay with us, because sometimes the people who claim to love us most are the very ones who ruin us. Mark Reynolds was the kind of man everyone in town respected. A hard-working father, a loyal husband, the guy who never missed a Sunday service, who volunteered to mow the church lawn, and who always made time for his son's Little League games. He built his life on faith, family, and forgiveness. Even when that forgiveness came at a cost. Elena Reynolds was the woman he married at 23. Beautiful, smart, supportive, but guarded. She had a past she never fully unpacked. And Mark never asked, because love, he believed, meant trust. Then there was Donovan Reynolds, Mark's younger brother, recently released from a 6-year prison sentence. With nowhere else to go, Mark took him in, gave him a room, a second chance, a family. But behind closed doors, something was unraveling. Whose child was Mark really raising? What did Donovan do while Mark gave him shelter and love? And what truth finally broke Mark on Father's Day morning? A single message flashed across Mark's phone hours before he jumped. "You know it's yours?" Then silence. The next morning, a headline would stun the town. Man jumps from South Bridge in alleged suicide. But what the world didn't know was that Mark left behind more than just a note. He left behind a question no family wants to face. How long had the betrayal been going on? And how deep did it run? Mark Reynolds was born and raised in a small town just outside Macon, Georgia. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, but he was steady. The kind of man who showed up early, stayed late, and never needed praise for doing the right thing. He worked at the same auto shop for nearly 15 years, always paid his bills on time, always took care of the people he loved. 10 years ago, he married Elena. She was everything he ever prayed for, smart, graceful, and way out of his league, according to his friends. But their first years of marriage were marked by heartbreak. Doctors told them having children naturally would be nearly impossible. They tried everything: IVF, hormone therapy, adoption waiting lists. Nothing worked. Then, 2 years ago, Elena handed him a pregnancy test on his birthday. Positive. No treatments, no clinics. Just a miracle. Mark broke down in tears. Their son, Joshua, was born 7 months later, and from that moment on, Mark became the father he'd always dreamed of being. Every diaper, every bottle, every sleepless night. He did it all, and he loved every second of it. But behind the love and the laughter was a scar that hadn't fully healed. His younger brother, Donovan. They were raised under the same roof, but they couldn't have been more different. Mark was the golden child. Donovan was the rebel. At 19, Donovan was sentenced to 6 years in prison for aggravated assault. Drugs, fights, and bad decisions defined his youth. But Mark never gave up on him. Even when everyone else turned their backs, Mark visited, wrote letters, put money on his books. Family first, he always said. People change. When Donovan was finally released, Mark didn't hesitate. He opened his door, gave him a room, a fresh start. He even introduced him to Joshua as Uncle Donnie. Mark believed in second chances, even when it meant bringing chaos into his peaceful home. He had no idea the man he was trying to save would become the very reason he ended his life. At first it was small. Elena seemed uneasy when Donovan entered the room. Her smile tightened. Her eyes dropped. Mark noticed, but brushed it off. They'll get used to each other, he told himself. It's just awkward. Mark worked long shifts at the auto shop. Donovan stayed home, helping Elena with chores, watching Joshua. It felt like a blessing. Family under one roof, healing. But then, little things. A shirt in the laundry that wasn't Mark's. A glance shared across the kitchen that felt too long. A late-night phone call Elena took in the hallway, whispering. Then came the pregnancy. Elena wept when she told him. Mark fell to his knees, thanking God. Another miracle, he believed. Another chance to be the father he never thought he could be. When the baby was born, he named him Caleb, after his grandfather. Everything felt complete. Until one night. Donovan left his phone on the kitchen counter. It lit up. A message preview. He really thinks it's his? Mark's hands froze. His heart dropped. And in that moment, everything he believed about his family, about his wife, about his brother, about his life, came crashing down. Mark didn't scream, he didn't accuse, he didn't break things, he simply shut down. Outwardly, he smiled, went to work, held Caleb like nothing had changed. But inside, something was breaking apart. He started keeping a journal, scribbled prayers, questions, confusion. He collected a few strands of Caleb's hair, sent them off for a private paternity test. While he waited, he barely slept. He'd sit alone at night watching his son breathe. A week later, the results arrived. 0% probability of paternity. Mark stared at the page in silence. Then came the flashbacks, the awkward glances, the shirt, the message, Elena's tears, all the signs he had ignored, all the moments that suddenly made perfect sense. Still, he said nothing. Not to her, not to Donovan. Instead, he followed Donovan one night after dinner, down 2 streets, past the park, into a dark parking lot. Elena was already there. Mark watched them. Laugh. Hug. Her hand on Donovan's chest. He turned away. That night he wrote one final letter. You were my brother. She was my wife. He was my son. And the next morning, he drove to the bridge. In the weeks after Mark's death, Elena told reporters, I never wanted this, I loved them both. But the public didn't believe her. The backlash was brutal. She killed him with lies, one comment read. She watched him fall without lifting a finger. As the outrage spread, Donovan vanished. No forwarding address, no contact. Just gone. Mark's family, shattered but determined, filed for custody of Caleb, and won. They argued he deserved stability. Truth. Love without deception. Elena lost everything. Caleb, now 13, knows the story. He's seen the headlines, read the letter, asked the questions no child should ever have to ask. And though time has passed, the wound never fully healed. A child born from betrayal. A man who died with a broken heart, and a secret that destroyed a family from within. So we ask you, is blood thicker than loyalty? Or is betrayal thicker than both? Have you ever been betrayed by the ones you loved the most? What would you have done in Mark's shoes? We want to hear from you. Comment your thoughts below. And if stories like this move you, subscribe now so you never miss the ones they never tell you out loud. Next up, a daughter disappears for 15 years, then shows up at her mother's doorstep with a secret that will tear the town apart. And if you're hurting or feeling lost, please know you are not alone. Call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK, 8255. There's always someone ready to listen. We'll see you in the next story.